Welcome to the Memories of a Moonbird podcast, exploring life one story at a time. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Memories of a Moonbird podcast. I'm Daniel Sherrill. Today on the show, she's been serving with the United States Air Force for more than 15 years. As an airborne systems engineer, she spent more than 3,500 hours in the air and has been to more places than most people will visit in their lifetime. In addition to her military service, she's also a dedicated mom who's had to learn how to travel with a child and all the compromises and extra work that can take. In her spare time, she enjoys acting, writing, and working in production in movies and TV, as well as reading, hiking, and finding fun activities to do with her family. She was born in Nebraska, but raised as a military child, moving several times throughout her youth. She eventually settled back into life in Nebraska as a teenager and is the very definition of salt of the earth. Today, she joins us to talk about how travel has been such an extensive part of both her military career and her life as a mom on the move. So please welcome fellow Moonbird Technical Sergeant Katherine Roewert.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. How you doing?
I'm good.
So first thing, what's it like being a military kid on the move?
Amazing. We got to just go a lot of different places, traveled all over the countryside, and
what are
it was
some of the
just
places
normal
you
for
went
us.
to?
Oh, some places like as a kid.
Yeah.
Well, I was born up in Nebraska. My parents met in the military, and then my dad left and tried to farm, and all of his cows died. So,
Bummer.
yeah. So we were traveling every summer. My dad would, get a lot of leave built up, and then we'd just go. And we did a lot of camping and, things like that, like going to national monuments or, anywhere
Do you have a
we
particular
possibly
memory from childhood that you're like, oh, I really love that trip?
I remember going to Hawaii when I was 20. We took a Space A, which is a military aircraft, and you can bring your family on. We flew over in a KC-135, which is a tanker, and we thought it was the coolest thing in the world because we hadn't been on a military aircraft at that point, except for my dad worked on F-15s and F-16s, so we'd sit in the plane when we were little kids and pretend
That is
like
really cool.
we were flying them. Yeah. But yeah, we went over to Hawaii and it was awesome. My mom thought it was a different country for some reason because she said, well, she's 20, so she can drink, right? No, Mom.
When do you think you first discovered that you actually had the travel bug and loved to travel?
I think it's just because it was like ingrained in my life as a kid. So I just expect it, there's my privilege right there, and being able to travel all the time and just going, well, yeah, I'm going to do it.
What made you decide to join the military?
Both my parents were in. I didn't want to join the military initially. I did want to become a fighter pilot, but I also wanted to be an actor. So that was a little bit stronger for me when I was senior in high school. So I went to college for a year and a half. And then I was like, well, I really just want to travel the world. And I dropped out of college and joined the military.
Why did you decide Air Force over one of the other divisions?
Because it's the best force. Both my parents were in the Air Force, so,
Cool. So you were an airborne systems engineer for a time. What does that mean?
Airborne systems engineer, we all joke around. It's Geek Squad for the aircraft. So we just fix computers and systems and stuff. And it's very specialized. So I wouldn't necessarily call us engineers. We're more technicians, but there's just specific things that we do for our specific systems. So
how long is the training to learn how to do these things?
it can go up to a year. It just depends because we have to go through flight school, and that kind of matters. Like, sometimes you get put on a training flight and it cancels because of weather or not enough people or lots of different reasons. So it's usually between, we'll say 7 months to a year.
Now, I know some things you can't talk about, but what's a place you've been for during your military service that you thought was really awesome?
Oh, I got to go to Okinawa, Japan, which was amazing. I got my scuba cert out there. And then I also got to go to Greece, Crete, the little island that Turkey and Greece fought over for a long period of time. So there's a lot of ruins. And we did this really fun hike, like 13 miles down this huge hill into like this little coastal town where either you have to do a hike down or take a boat because there's no other there's not very many ways to get there. And that was super cool.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
In general, over your military career, as you've traveled to different places, are you allowed time to go explore and see the different countries and places, or is it fairly restricted?
Well, sometimes I'm not. I've been to a few places that we didn't really have a lot of time. I do know people that make time. Overall, they kind of give you it's like a regular work day. So you try to fit in as much as you can when you have your time off. But that is the one thing about the military aspect of traveling is you don't get to do all the things that you want to do, and you do your best to make time for it. But it's still wonderful being in a different country and being out.
Do you guys, when you were doing the airborne systems engineer stuff, did you guys refuel in the air?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so what's that like? Because I've seen it on TV and it looks really scary.
It's not that scary, actually. I mean, I think the scariest is when you're on a training flight and there's a new pilot learning how to do it. And we're all in the back experiencing his indiscrepancy or her indiscrepancies.
But they have to lock a small fuel thing into a port, basically, right? So then the two planes have to stay at the same velocity and everything. So that, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you have I know you can't see my hands, but the pilot is like moving it around like this and, just trying to stay aligned with the other one and then the other plane is doing the same thing. So they're both and I've actually been able to sit up in the cockpit several times while they do it too. A friend of mine from high school is a refueler. So she's in the little boom. And one time she saw me and we're waving at each other from plane to plane all the way 25,000 feet in the air. Yeah.
25,000 foot in the air reunion.
25,000 feet in the air. That's right.
So does the hose that has the fuel line itself coming from the refueler to your aircraft, is it flexible and moves because the planes
Yes, it does. Yeah. And she actually pushes it out too once we get close enough. I don't know how her job works, honestly, but you can see it kind of moving and then she'll move it towards the plane. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you can hear it goes it sounds like something hit your plane. It's like.
I hope it sounds just like that.
Just like that. No, a little bit louder.
Like someone had too much dairy. So where are some of your favorite places that you've traveled as a civilian?
Well, let's see. I went to Australia. I know a lot of people have been to Australia. It is exactly how a lot of
many as you think, actually.
Oh yeah, okay.
At least in America, I think most people think of Australia and New Zealand as that very far away place.
Yeah, but I mean, it is so great. I mean, it's beautiful and fun to visit, but it's also the people are very inviting. Mm-hmm. So, and they get to travel a lot. You usually hear about Australians if you go somewhere. And you're not really sure if you should go, it's an Australian's probably been there, so you might as well go, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to Sydney and Perth, so I got to see both sides of the country. And I have a friend that lives out there right now, so she lives in Brisbane, so I'll probably go out there next year, fingers crossed.
When you travel to a new place, how do you like to get acquainted with it? And I tell people I like to talk to people, go to a bookstore, have a meal. What's your thing?
Same with those things, actually. I like to walk around and
copycat.
I know, right? Yeah. It's so cool to experience. There's this thing that we did when I was in acting classes, and we'd go out in college and just watch people walk around and experience the interaction that people have, even if it's just for 2 seconds, And I like to do that with people in different countries. And if you do that and you notice people, everybody is so different and their culture really comes out just within movements that they do and stuff. So, and I like to copycat, and maybe that's an actor in me or something. So I like to, and it gives people comfort when you do the same things as them. So that's why I like to do.
So you're a chameleon.
I am.
What's something you don't like about travel?
How expensive it is sometimes. The unknowns that, the cultural unknowns that you don't, I try to research as much as I can before I go somewhere. But I also, there's certain things that certain cultures don't like. And sometimes we do as Americans. And people can tell right away when you're an American when you go to a different country. Or even around the country here in the United States, people can tell that you're from a different area, you know?
Sure, by behavior or accent or...
Yeah. And maybe sometimes when you try to do something, people don't like it and you don't know about it, you know? That kind of bothers me. But honestly, that's digging. So
Okay.
I like most things about traveling.
If you were going to recommend one place that you think everyone should try to visit in their lifetime, would it be Australia?
You know, I have this thing where I don't like favorites because I feel like if you say a favorite place, then because you never know. Like, you know, blue is beautiful, but so is red, you know? So I like to say, like, just go. If you are interested in something, you know, if you're just wanting to experience something new and you've learned about a specific thing and you like, oh, I want to learn about that more, go. Go learn about it. Go view it. Go do something.
Absolutely.
So, no, I wouldn't necessarily say Australia is the place to go. I'd say go all over.
Go
do
everywhere.
all the things. Yeah.
Does your military experience get you free travel?
Yeah, military. I mean, there are benefits to it, but so is AAA, and sometimes AAA has better benefits. So, the Space A program with the military is really great because, you know, you can hop on an aircraft anytime, but if anything breaks, or you're kind of at the mercy of the military aircraft. So definitely you need to have funds to be able to get home in time, or, you know, maybe you break and you have to stop in Hawaii instead of going all the way over to Australia, or, you know, something like that.
Now with this program, do you have a commercial seat, or is it comfortable?
It's like the jump seats, you know?
Are they comfortable or no?
Not really. It's the, you know, the parachute. Not all, some planes do actually have seats, but not all of them do. So
That's still cool though.
yeah.
Has the majority of your travel in your life been with other people or by yourself?
Usually it's been with other people. I've definitely taken a lot of road trips by myself.
And do you like road tripping?
I absolutely love it. Yes. It's one of the best things, especially just like, I don't know. I like driving on my car and like listening to music, or even just like being with my own
Listening to
thoughts.
the Memories of a Moonbird podcast?
Exactly. I've listened to all of the episodes so far. I came back from a deployment with a friend of mine, and we had 2 weeks of leave. So I took that 2 weeks of leave, and we went from Nebraska out to, I think, Kentucky, and then Pennsylvania, and then New York City, and then we drove all the way back. And in Kentucky, we stayed at this gorge, and I can't remember.
Red River Gorge?
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, that sounds right. We went kayaking, we did some hiking, we camped the entire time.
Awesome.
And then we went to the Red River Gorge, and then we went to Ohiopyle State Park in Pennsylvania, and we went whitewater rafting. And we ended up befriending a bunch of the people that worked there for the summer because they were all kind of our age. So we ended up going out with them and hearing their stories about traveling and being adventurous. And we were like, wow, we got to do this more.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What a great experience to have at a younger age too, to see how great it is to go out there and talk to people and meet new people. And yeah,
yes, that's what it's all about.
Have you ever had to overcome any kind of particular challenge while traveling that looking back, you're proud of, I overcame that thing?
The first thing that comes to my mind would be not being prepared for something and just going and doing it. And, I would like to know what I'm doing when I'm going somewhere so that I can make the best of my time. Or when you go out without having a plan, it's kind of fun to just go out and do something. You just don't get all of, you don't get to do all the things that you want, that you eventually go, oh, I want to do that once you're out there. And then you don't get to do all those things. So that's the only challenge I think I've experienced. I'm sure there's others, but they don't come to mind because I'm always thinking I just had a great time.
If you were talking to someone and they hadn't had a lot of experience traveling, what 1 or 2 travel tips would you give them from your experience and say, well, hey, just general advice, here are a couple of things you should remember? Bring
a book, bring layers. Don't forget those layers. And really, you don't really need, just as long as you have your essentials like your phone and money. Everything else is kind of going to end up being provided to you. So you just might have to pay a little bit of money. But honestly, like a book is really important because there might be some waiting involved in your travel, and people watching only lasts so long. So unless you're going to be talking to a lot of people, then bring a book. Also, don't forget to bring a good pair of shoes because you might be walking a lot. Just being on the plane, you're supposed to have, you're not really supposed to have open-toed shoes or anything. It's like bring a good walking shoe.
I actually, in my travel tips, talk how important it is to not only have good shoes, but to actually go get fitted for shoes properly, where they're going to measure your foot, they're going to measure your width, and they're going to, give you the right support, find if you're pronating or whatever, and really get good walking shoes if you're going to travel, because it makes the difference between a bad trip or a good trip in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good,
Katie, we're
really
so
good
awesome.
Suggestion. Yeah, we are.
You talked about doing research. I love to encourage people to research before they take a trip. What is a resource that you like to use when you research a place you're going to go?
Oh gosh, honestly, Google. It's pretty easy because things will pop up. Visit, this place or that place. I'm getting ready to go to Iceland right now.
Nice.
In April, yeah, and I've been looking at all types of like areas to stay and like places to go visit and what to do and what do locals like and all that kind of stuff, and the touristy stuff too, because that's important. Might as well, right? And really, I just Google it and then try to find, the legitimate sites. And usually it's like visit Iceland whatever it is, or .com or whatever.
Pinterest is also a great resource.
Pinterest is great. Yeah. Pinterest, and honestly, Instagram too, because Instagram has a lot, and they'll show you pictures of places like, yes, I want to go there.
And it's great on Instagram to see something, because look, as a photographer myself, we do polish our photos, but the thing that I just tell people to be aware of is like, for instance, let's just say the Great Pyramids at Giza, right? You have the Great Pyramids of Egypt and they're beautiful and some of the photographs look stunning. But what people don't realize is that if you just turn around the other direction, not facing the pyramids, there's a giant city, the city of Cairo behind you. You should research to know that it's not like these pyramids are in or whatever you're going. Sometimes people get confused that they'll see a photograph and they'll go, oh, I'm going to go do this thing and create an expectation of what it's going to be like. I tell them research because the photographer
it's not in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and the photographer is catching it at sunset or sunrise in the sweetest light and its most opportune moment when there's the least amount of tourists, and like when we went to the Mona Lisa, for instance, it was the pictures we saw were the Mona Lisa in a room with like 2 people. We get there and there's like, 11,000 people in the room and it's hot and sweaty and people are knocking you around. And So what things are really like versus what the fantasy of them is also an important thing to research.
I think people forget. Yeah, they forget like, oh, the pyramids aren't in the middle of nowhere. You're not going to take a camel to them, or maybe you will. But yeah, it's in a city. Yeah.
Looking back on all the travels you've done over your life so far, is there anything that you wish you had known when you first started?
I think maybe just being more responsible. I call it growing up and making a plan like we had talked about, that knowing what you want to do and making the best of your day. Not that I wasn't making the best of my day before. It was just that I went somewhere and then I would leave. I would experience this great time, but then I would leave and I would go, oh man, I didn't go to see this and I wanted to, or oh, I didn't go to see this and I wanted to. So,
and I think that's an especially
really
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I think it's an especially crummy feeling when you've spent a lot of money to go to, let's say, France, and then you think I'm just gonna wing it when I get there, and then you come home and find out that you were 1 mile away from the coolest thing in the world, and you missed it. That sucks.
And that being said, though, having a plan is wonderful and good for everybody, but it doesn't mean that you have to fill every single hour of every single day. It's really important to have that downtime and just experience the culture as well.
Yes. And go to a pub and sit and have a drink and talk to people and get to know it's great. Yeah, we had a really funny conversation with a guy in Scotland, actually, in our Uber. And we ended up just talking with him for a half an hour while we were driving around and learned all kinds of stuff about Glasgow that we'd never known. It was great.
Oh, exactly. That's the kind of stuff that like makes it worth your while too, because talking to locals and just having a good time, enjoying where you're at and what you're doing. So I did that before, when I was younger. And then now I kind of try to add in like an event or two to each day. And sometimes one day maybe is just downtime or, walking around or whatever. But
now, when we have a trip that, let's say it's 2 weeks long, we're going to take an actual vacation. We'll budget that. We do what's called rest days, which it's a rock climbing term actually. So when you go on a rock climbing trip, you do like climbing one day, climbing the next day, and then you have a rest day where you don't do any climbing, and then you'll climb again, and you'll have a rest day. And so, so we like to do it with vacation. It's like, all right, let's run all around, see a bunch of stuff, and then let's do nothing on the other day, the third day, besides, have a nice meal, sit and talk to people, just relax. Maybe we'll kick it at the Airbnb and watch Netflix, whatever,
Or something one of the locals told you to watch.
Yes.
There you go. That's
or go see a band that they recommend that's performing live or something.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, see, things like that. Make time for that too, because that's worth your while.
Why do you think people don't travel as much as they could or should?
I think it's scary for people sometimes, they think, oh my gosh, I could never go there, or I could never do that. That would be just so much work and it is sometimes, traveling when you're not used to it. It's exhausting. It can be. And just trying to stay aware of your surroundings and what you're doing. And it can get, to be a lot. And I think
you travel as a mom.
I do.
I'd love to hear you talk about what that's like, and maybe for other parents out there.
That's a new adventure all in itself, for sure. That's where I've learned to make a plan. So, when Penny was really little, it was tough, but it was easier. I don't know. I wouldn't say easier, but easier in other ways than it is now, because she's very much aware of her surroundings. She likes to tell me no. Like, no, mommy, I don't want to do that right now. 4. So she's right at that stage where she's, she has something that she wants to do, and she's telling me that she wants to do it. And I'm like, no, we can't do that. Or no, we can't bring home an entire bag of rocks from this place that we just went to. So yeah, that happens all the time. So just things. But when she was little, it was easy because I breastfed. So when I was on the plane and any kind of if she cried or if there's any kind of, I just popped her on the boob real quick and shut her up. You know what I mean? It was very easy. Or, bottle, I'm sure. Most moms probably like, yeah, it's fine because you can keep them in your lap too. Just bring lots of snacks.
That's funny. The flight attendant who I interviewed, Susie, she talks about parents making sure they have enough snacks for their children being a very important thing.
Don't not bring snacks. Like, why would you know how much your kids like to snack anyway, and you're going to bring them around hundreds of people that, I don't know, that might not understand the personality of your child.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, you gotta make it make the environment comfortable for your child. So I always say, bring their favorite blankie or their favorite, stuffed animal or something. Bring a little backpack full of, that stuff, their snacks, anything comforting to them. It's screen time. As parents, a lot of parents say they don't want to give their kid too much screen time. It's like, this is the moment that's okay. Bring the iPad, let them watch a show on your phone or whatever, and prepare that because you have to download that stuff. So make sure that happens. And sometimes kids still cry and have emotions and feelings when you really don't want them to have in the moment. But also, I like to tell parents, sometimes they get a lot of anxiety over, this being an embarrassing situation and worrying about other people's feelings. And that takes them away from the scenario. And then their kid sometimes cries longer. So it's important to know, kids are going to cry. And so, distractions, asking them questions about their favorite things, or allowing them to have a moment to cry and then go, okay, let's, get back to this. And who knows? All kids are different. All adults are different. So we were all kids once. So
yes.
Thank goodness for those parents that maybe worked through those moments. But
So you don't think we should have separate planes for families
no,
versus
Daniel, I don't
civilians?
think we should. No.
In my dream world, Katie.
Yeah. Yeah.
People with children get to have their own flights where they're specially catered to for, parents with children. And this is not meant offensively. It's meant to be actually better for the parents and children. You have more toys, you have all this stuff. They can run around, they can, and then those of us who don't have children just travel in a quiet tube, Actually, tell you the truth, though, the one thing that I think I would do if I had magical powers is I told Jolene that I would have a thing called the smellometer. And it would be a device at the opening of the airplane or maybe at the gate at the airport. And as you pass through, if you had like bad breath of a certain level or a certain amount of BO, you would not be allowed to get into the plane until you went into the bathroom and brushed your teeth or showered or washed your pits or whatever you have to do.
Yeah.
Because then it would prevent the flight from, because we had an experience when we actually flew to New Zealand. There was a guy that I saw coming onto the plane and he had a sleeveless shirt on and he just looked like he was dirty, honestly. And I looked at Julian and I said, he's going to sit right in front of us. This is just Murphy's Law. Of course, we're going to get stuck with Stinky Guy. And sure enough, that dude sat right in front of me and he had the most rank BO I've just about ever smelled. And so for 12 freaking hours, all the way to New Zealand, I was just smelling really horrendous BO.
So it's funny you mentioned that because in the military, we have had scenarios where when we're in a deployed location, people sometimes don't take care of themselves, actually. It's kind of baffles me because you've got all the time in the world sometimes to take a shower.
Wash your stuff.
Yeah. And there's always like one or two people that end up being, and then we're in that scenario for 13 hours out of the day.
But do you say something in the military like, hey, John, you got to go wash your junk?
Yeah. So that's up to the supervisor. And then if that doesn't change, then it goes to the commander, actually. And there's instruction, there's military instruction that tells people they're not allowed to be stinky.
Wow, that's cool.
Not if, as long as they have the ability to, shower and stuff. But
is there a shower in your plane?
No.
Okay.
No. But where we sleep and stay, yes, there's like plenty of showers. So please just go shower. But I've been in scenarios like that too, where there's, you just sit next to somebody that's like, oh man.
I'm experiencing this right now, ladies and gentlemen. Katie just has kind of a odor sitting in the studio here.
It's like, oh man, I just got done running. So that's, no, I did not.
I'm just kidding. You smell
running,
just fine. Katie, let's talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is food. Do you have a favorite food? I know you don't like favorites, but
I don't like favorites, but definitely anything that will make me go this way is probably...
She's gesturing fatter in the stomach.
Yes. Well, is probably something I will love.
So last meal on earth, what would it be if you could snap your fingers?
Oh my goodness. It's funny. You say last meal on earth and I think, oh, where am I going? Oh goodness. I'm not even worried about the food. I'm like, where am I going?
That's hilarious.
Another planet? Have we found the planets that we can...
I meant you're going to die and this is the last thing you'll ever eat. Sorry.
And then I'll turn to dust and,
Yes.
food won't matter anymore.
But it matters right now.
Okay. Let's see. Probably lasagna.
Meatless or meat lasagna?
Well, meat, definitely meat.
Okay.
But I like vegetables too, so I don't know. It'd have to be
broccoli was one of your favorites, right?
broccoli.
Yeah.
Oh, I
said
like
that
all
once.
types. I like broccoli. I like all foods. I don't know. It's hard to pick.
Is there a food you don't like? I don't like mushrooms.
Yes, there is. Oh no, I love mushrooms.
Ugh, you can have them all.
I feel like Italy would be one of my favorite places to visit. That's on my bucket list, specifically for the food and wine.
This is very exciting.
Oh, I do have a food that I don't like. And I tried it 3 times when I was in Greece. The fishy stuff, the sea urchin. So I went to Greece and they made it like 2 or 3 different ways. So people kept telling me, oh, you should just try it this way or you should try it this way. No, I'm sorry. I like most things, but the sea urchin, I couldn't do it. It was very tough. And you dip it in bread, like the bread in it. And it just would not work.
Is there a favorite place you've eaten somewhere in the world? Or since you don't like favorites.
I know, it's tough. You keep saying favorite. I'm like, well, let me think of some place that...
Well, do you have a memory of some particular meal you ate somewhere that you were like, oh my God, that was such a great meal?
I do have a memory of some place I ate, a couple or a few, but
Would you like
it's not
to share with the
necessarily
audience?
my favorite, but it is a very funny memory of food.
Do tell.
It's the first time my family ever had sushi, and my sister got it, and my dad was trying to teach her how to eat sushi. Also, my dad has never eaten sushi before, so
Was using a fork.
no, because they were like, no, let's use these little stick things. I think they're called chopsticks. And my sister went to eat them, and he's like, oh, no, you have to take the black stuff off. And that's just to keep it together. And then once you
wrap?
eat it, the actual seaweed wrap.
Wow. That's hilarious.
And we were dying laughing. This is the same place that my mom asked if I could drink because, it wasn't the mainland. Thanks, Mom. I almost got that pina colada if it hadn't been for her. But yeah, that one. And then when I was in Greece, they'd always give us like a little, and I can't remember what the word for it, of course, now because it's been so long, but they would give you a little tiny cup after you ate of like some alcoholic drink. And then you always had to cheers at the end of
Ouzo?
your... No, it wasn't ouzo. It was very strong. And people would be like, I can't drink this. But I thought it was the coolest little tradition. So I would always just drink everybody else's for them. Not all of them, because it was hard. It was hard to get down. But it was so cool. I just thought that was like a really cool little, and it kind of relaxed people. And in a lot of other countries, food is the time to like enjoy your food, enjoy your conversation, and enjoy life, So,
do you try to adapt that into your own life at home?
Well, I try, but American social life is very go, 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 go. So it's hard to do that. But yeah, there's times we have dinner parties or something like that and just enjoy people's company. But they do that all the time in other places. And I think that's really, really wonderful.
I like to ask everybody, what's their whoopee? What's their one security blanket item that they don't travel without?
So I know this has already been said, but mine's a book. So I've read a lot of books on planes. I'm just waiting in certain areas.
And do you prefer to have a physical book or a digital like iPad?
I do, actually. I love the actual book. It makes the reading experience a little bit different to me. I do have a Kindle, but yeah, I like the actual books. So something about it, the smell of it, and while you're reading, and it doesn't kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I like it.
I love the smell of books.
Yeah, me too.
It's one of my favorite smells, actually.
Love the smell of rich mahogany. Wait, that's not, okay. Yeah.
Katie, is there anything else travel-wise that you feel you wanted to impart to the friends and family out there listening?
Yeah, just don't be scared to go out and do something if you are able, and you use Daniel's tips to making your travel cheaper and easier to do. Just go out and do it. Like, even if you're scared, just get out there, because the more you experience other cultures and other areas, the more you can make your home life even better, so
it really enriches the human experience.
it really does. Yeah.
And also I want to add on to that I talk about this often as well, but there's this, I'm always surprised how many people think that you say the word travel and that means having a passport, going on a big trip. But travel can mean going 10 miles outside your hometown to go to an arts festival down the street, or going to see something cool. Like Jolene mentions, new animal experiences, Here in California, for people that are near the Los Angeles or San Diego area, there's Nurtured by Nature, which is an incredible animal experience. And it's only a couple hours away. So there's lots to do. And when you talk about research, I always encourage people to look at what's around your town. Talk to your local tourism board. There is tons of free stuff to do right near where you live.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
the last thing, it's called 299 Philosophical and Life Questions with Moonbird. You get to pick two numbers from 1 to 299, and we'll ask you both those questions right here and now.
Okay.
So what are your two numbers randomly?
197 and 77.
197. Ooh, this is a good one. If you had to pick one, what is the most important value you would like to teach your child?
Kindness.
Said without delay. That was impressive.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to be mean and hateful. It's harder to be kind. And I think it should be easier. So Let's all be kind to each other.
Amen. I agree. And you said 77. Have you ever fallen in love with a sport? And if so, which one?
Volleyball. I haven't really watched it much lately at all, but
What about volleyball over other sports do you like?
it's usually, not always, but usually a bunch of women kicking ass. And I like to play it as well. So,
Since you brought up women kicking ass, I know you are definitely someone who, I don't like the term feminist only because it says...
I'm a feminist. I'm a witchy feminist.
Are you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't seem witchy to me.
Well, I'm not, but I like to just say it because it's like, ooh, so scary,
Well, I was going to say, I know you're someone who very much believes in equal rights for men and women across the board, and as do I. And in today's culture where women are finally getting a strong voice that they deserve and are finally being heard, and all these things that have been going on, some of the dark stuff that's been brought to light, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How does it make you feel as a woman raising a daughter?
Oh, well, I think I'm really happy for a lot of these movements. I think, for somebody that believes in a lot of that stuff, I know it's easy for me to like a lot of it. And so I've definitely stepped back a little bit and tried to experience why certain people don't like the word feminist or don't like certain aspects of it. And one of the movements I really, really love is the he for she movement, because it's not necessarily about taking away like a masculinity or anything like that. It's just helping each other out gender to gender
and seeking understanding.
Yeah. So I'm happy that we have a lot of movement and a lot, because if you truly look at, history and statistics and all that kind of stuff, women are a lot more suppressed in their, in certain areas, but it's important to understand it too. So hopefully more people will be more aware of these things through certain movements that are just trying to teach instead of like lash out. So
agreed. I think that's very well said. And I am very encouraged actually that the new generation of children, like your daughter's age and slightly older, I think that the world they're going to create is going to be absolutely wonderful. And I hope I stay alive long enough to see it. I really do.
I hope that I am able to do everything I can to make a good human. So let's hope.
Well, if she's anywhere near as cool as you, Katie, I think job well done.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet.
Thank you for being here and for being awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you for being awesome.
And have a great day. If you'd like some more Moonbird in your life, and hey, who wouldn't? Head on over to memoriesofamoonbird.com or visit me on social media @memoriesofamoonbird.